Welcome to the Kingdom Podcast, featuring Commissioner Christine King, where all voices are heard.
Welcome to the Kingdom Podcast, where we discuss all things Miami and all voices are heard. I am Chairwoman Christine King and Commissioner for District 5. We are here today in the historic Lyric Theater filming another episode of the Kingdom Podcast. My guest today is Mr. Larry M. Spring, Chief Financial Officer of the City of Miami. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Larry is our guest today because the city is walking into its budget season, and we are tasked with passing a balanced budget for the City of Miami. Can you share a little bit of that process with us?
Absolutely, and thank you for your
And
invitation.
remember, our residents know, let's pretend like they know nothing about the budget and what it entails and why we have to pass a balanced budget, what goes into the budget, who gets what, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for your invitation. I always look forward to these opportunities because education is better for our residents. Statutorily, in that state of Florida law, requires every municipality to pass what is called a structurally balanced budget. So what does that mean? That means recurring revenues have to pay for recurring expenses. So property taxes, fees that we collect for building, charges for service, rentals, has to cover the cost of salaries for our firefighters, our police officers, garbage collection, the parks employees, the staff in the administrative offices who serve.
So everything in the city.
Everything in the city.
And what is our total budget?
Our total budget is $1.2 billion.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
And we serve how many residents?
Just under 500,000 residents right now. Like 400. I want to say it's 450,000. So it's quite a number of people, and you know that, particularly you, Madam Chairwoman, because we have a very diverse population.
We do.
We serve the poorest of the poor, the sometimes uncounted and less fortunate, as well as servicing areas like Brickell and Upper East Side. So all of that diversity lands on your shoulders actually every September, and we go through this process. The meeting and something you've done that I think that helps us engage with the community better. We have a Saturday budget hearing, and I've been doing this for 20 years. Never had that, but
well, that was my way of trying to have as many persons who want to be involved in the process have the opportunity to. I thought it'd be unfair to have our budget meetings at 5:01 p.m. on a Wednesday, and then it drags into midnight, 1 o'clock.
Absolutely.
And it didn't lend itself for participation, or a lot of participation. And like I said earlier, all voices should be heard.
Absolutely. And the staff, we've gotten used to it. I like it. We can relax through the week and then be prepared to go fresh and early Saturday morning.
I got a lot of heat for that when I started it. I got a lot of heat for that.
But, as long as we get out by the time football starts, I'm good. So
priorities. So how are we looking this fiscal? Our budget begins October 1,
yes,
and it's on a fiscal year cycle, so we're doing fiscal year 24-25.
That is correct. So as you know, we've already started the process. The process really starts for us in the administration around January, February. We start doing forecasts of what we think our expenses will be, taking into account union contracts. And as you know, we just approved all 4 unions, so that was a big change. We get our assessed values from the county June 1st, and then again in July 1st, a little bit more clarified. Our tax base is at $95 billion assessed value, which me going back to 2003 when I first started at the city, our tax base was around $30 billion.
Wow.
So
It's tripled.
it's tripled over the last 20 years, which is a blessing and a curse. That does mean a slightly, it could tend to mean a slightly higher tax for each citizen or each homeowner or resident, but we've grown at the same time, so that some of that, a good part of that is new construction, so new buildings, new facilities that we're taxing. But that also means we need more police officers, more firefighters, more staff to really provide service to our citizenry. So, we start that, like I said, we start that process. We get feedback from each of you, yourself, and your colleagues on their priorities for the budget. As you know, we've set the millage cap already in July. So we will not be increasing taxes on our citizens this year. In fact, we will be reducing taxes.
And I know they're very happy about that, or
Yes.
will be
They
once
will
they
be
hear.
once they hear. And so the two budget hearings are really the opportunity for us to engage, that final engagement with the public. Is there something that is a little bit more important? Have we met the priorities in the budget proposal that is being presented? One nuance, and again, it's about our law. The budget that you're considering is actually the mayor's initial proposal to the board, and then you guys get the
Take our
opportunity
feedback.
to get the feedback. Actually, you have the ability to go line item, so you can
Right.
change. If you think we're buying too many pencils,
We can change
you
that.
can change it. So this is really and it's an important process. This is the time for the commissioners to really put their finger on how operations will be going into the next fiscal year.
And we actually do that because in a briefing I had about the solid waste fees,
Correct.
we had knockdown drag out.
We did.
We did. And in the end, we came up with a compromise, I believe, that works for both administration as well as our residents.
That is correct.
And I am currently on tour with solid waste to explain to my constituents the changes that we intend to make with respect to recycling and bulky waste pickup, and we talked about illegal dumping.
Correct.
And that kind of thing. And I appreciate that because we are on the ground. We hear from our constituency what is important, what is not important, and we're able to take that back to administration because you guys are up in your ivory tower making decisions that do not always make sense in application.
I agree. And one of the things I appreciate that you have brought to our table and our engagement between the elected officials and the staff, getting back on the street. One of the things I did when I first came, which as far as I know, no other budget or financial professional at the city had done prior to me or after, I went and actually slept at a fire station.
Oh, wow.
Overnight. And I went to several of them because the thought was, all right, I'm going to be over the process of allocating these dollars. So would I shower in that shower? Would I eat at that table? Would I want to sleep in that bunk? And it absolutely gives you a better sense of what we're doing. The
right,
other
because
thing,
if you don't want to do it,
then why
would
should
you
anyone
expect
anyone else?
And that's what I've done with our parks and our community centers. We renovated, the city, with my direction, renovated the Upper East Side Community Center, and it's wonderful now. And I don't think administration are always cognizant of repairs. We're
We
renovating
try.
the community center at Little Haiti because I have offices there. And if I don't want to use that bathroom or use the kitchen facility, why would I expect staff to do it as well?
Or a resident,
Or a resident,
for that matter.
for that matter.
The other thing I would say is important, that we really have been trying to present a plan to the commission and the mayor with all of, when you invest in something. So, we've done 2 big bond deals. We're getting a new administration building. We've continued to do our resiliency work through the bond. but we have to replace, as part of the budget process, cars, police cars. We have actually a contractual obligation. Most citizens don't know, because of a tragedy that happened many years ago, we're required to replace every police car every 7 years.
And you're behind schedule.
And we are behind schedule right now. So that becomes a big priority, not only working with the police, because that someone lost their lives some years ago, but also with the union and all right, how do we logistically get there? And so this budget process is more, it's again, this is our operating plan, not just for the year either. We also adopt our capital plan. We just went to market.
And what's a capital plan?
So the capital plan, we have a separate fund for all of our capital dollars. So the money we spend to do new parks, renovations at existing buildings, new roads, drainage projects. As you know, we have a lot of, some flooding issues around.
Yes.
So that's the fund where we appropriate the dollars for all of those projects. And the city commission, the mayor supports those things greatly. And those are what I like to see. Those are the projects that people see.
Right.
That's so they're important because they need to get done, but then visually that is showing the citizens that, hey, these are your tax dollars really at use here. So you get a new street, you get new drainage, you get a new park facility, you get park equipment, all of those things, pump stations, all of those things are in there, and we are a little bit behind. And I think we've put forth we're working collaboratively with the mayor's office, with the commissioners, to come up with a good capital funding plan as we move forward in the future.
And how is our budget? Are we solid?
I've been affiliated with the city of Miami since 2003. And I've been through the downturn of 2008. And this is absolutely the most solid I've seen this city financially in 40 years.
Well, that's good to hear.
We have a AA bond rating. Our reserves are in excess of $200 million. Our tax base is $95 billion and growing. And we just need to make sure we keep up pace with making sure we have enough. Public safety and solid waste to me are like kind of the primary things that
Correct.
Really touch the residents. So keep up pace with supporting those operations and making sure we're reinvesting in our own infrastructure. So the police substations, the fire stations, equipment, and now after COVID, it takes a year and a half to build a solid waste truck. So that means we have to put the money in today, but we won't see it for 2 years.
Almost 2 years, yes.
So financial planning is a big thing. And if you look at our bond rating reports, those are the things that the rating agencies have pointed out. We've had good stewardship and good management and a good plan, and they feel confident that the city is doing what it needs to do financially.
Well, that's good to hear, and I know our residents would be interested in knowing that. They can feel comfortable knowing that the process may not be perfect, and particularly for those who don't understand the process. As a numbers guy, what would you say is the sexiest thing of the budget?
The sexiest thing of the budget?
Yes.
I'm not going to say what I'm going to say, but
I mean,
there's
you're a CPA, right?
I'm a licensed CPA. And I've been doing this for a long time.
You've been doing this for a long time. So you love your job.
I do.
I'm thinking. I'm glad you're saying that. You love your job?
I love my job.
Okay.
I love the work. But I love the work because, and I guess the sexiest thing in my head is this. I know that when we allocate money to certain projects and programs, at the end of the day, there's perhaps a little kid like me from Coconut Grove that benefits from those services, and maybe one day will become the CFO of the city that he was born in and raised in and grew up in. I know what we do affects people's lives every day, but I'm doing it from my chosen trade, which is, finance, accounting, numbers. We really get into it, and I know you're very passionate about this, when we get into the federal funding that we get and appropriate during this time, which is all the CDBG, the housing dollars. you and I fight and go back and forth on that almost every day, and how it's being led, who's leading it, how we're touching the people. Those things are truly what's important to me. And I would say, if you want to put a moniker on it, that's the sexy part of it. The rest of it, I've literally dedicated my career, a large part of it, to being the financial steward of this city. And I'd probably give myself, a B plus. We've had some ups and downs. I was here during the last financial crisis and all the stuff with the SEC, but we got past it, and we are better. The plan that we put together back then worked.
Right.
And here we are at over 200 million, and we were almost at 40.
Wow. Wow.
So, and those moments I'm proud of, and then the things that we build, the park projects that my kids get to go to.
I love our park projects.
Yes.
Because now, with parks, I made it clear that I wanted all of the D5 parks to be inclusive for children of all abilities, and they have really taken that and run with it. And every park that's renovated, and we've had now at least 3 or 4 parks in District 4 renovated with new gym equipment, with new park equipment, playground equipment, and it's for children of all abilities. And I think that's fantastic.
That's that sexy part right there.
It is. It is, because we want our children to be able to have a safe space to play in, to grow in, to learn. Our parks now are going to have free Wi-Fi. I think that is initiative, and that's cutting edge.
And we got to continue. And again, going back to the budget, this is where it starts and this is where it ends. So, we're looking forward to Saturday. My hope, and it's kind of my own grade stick, depending on how many people, and particularly come and talk about the millage rate. If there's only a few people, we did a good job. Maybe we can raise it next time a little bit, just a little bit.
Let's not talk blasphemy on my podcast. Let's not talk blasphemy on my podcast.
For the Kingdom Podcast listeners, I always try. But literally that lets us know, hey, we did a good job. And, but budget also is not, we stop at a static point, we approve it. But as you know, we have to analyze the budget. We make changes throughout the year. So it's not just a one-time deal and we're done.
We get a report monthly?
Every quarter.
Every quarter, we get a report on what was actually spent, what was projected to be spent, what we think is going to happen. So staff does a good job of keeping us abreast of how the budget is going throughout the year. And I love that I am able to fund programs that enhance my community. One of the budget items that I did when I got elected was put holiday lighting on MLK Boulevard.
Yes.
And you guys found a way to make that happen. And I love that, because I come up with these ideas, and through the process with administration, the manager, budget, I'm able to implement these ideas that assist my constituency.
And we want to, I know you and I often have this conversation about how nimble we are and how flexible we are. The state of Florida, our own code of ordinances, provides a very rigid structure on how we are to deal with our budgetary matters, on our financial matters. But, it's 2024. We have to be more innovative in our approach. We absolutely do. We have to look at strategy, disruptive strategy. As you know, there's a push on municipalities from the state legislature through the counties to basically usurp our powers and our monies.
We are aware.
And so we need to perhaps run business, our municipal business, a little different, our municipal finances a little different. The mayor said something the other day, and you said it in our last meeting, about us being more customer focused and customer facing. And I thought about that. I know it doesn't seem like it sometimes in our meetings that I don't take it to heart. I do take it to heart. And I think I work 24 hours. So I'm thinking about, okay, what would need to change in order for us to be more customer focused when we think about our budget and how we're expending dollars. What are the structural things and the legal things that need to be changed or modified, or maybe some relief here and there to allow us to be a little bit more nimble. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate you
I'm
saying
working on
that.
something for you.
Well, fun fact, you are the voice of the intro for my podcast.
Yes, I am. Any givers, I'm taking contracts.
And you're very civic minded. You belong to a lot of organizations that support our community. You're a member of the 100.
Yes, 100 Black Men of South Florida. In fact, we do a lot of work at Hadley Park. Matter of fact, just a few months ago, I did an engagement with our youth academy, and we're in the room that I financed and helped build. And that
must be a good feeling.
It is. That's why I do the work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I'm engaging with these young men, and I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I built this, I funded this, I financed it, and they're like, what? You just Mr. Larry,
right? And I have to let you do a shout out to your fraternity because you're a proud member of.
I am a proud member, life member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Currently with Miami Alumni Chapter. So yes.
Okay. Now,
also in the city.
We've come to the part in my podcast, we call it the rapid fire round, where I ask you 5 questions. Don't think about it too much.
Okay.
And just tell me what comes to mind immediately. Do you have a theme song?
Ooh, Hustle Hard.
By?
The artist is, I'm forgetting the artist right now. I'll get back to it.
Okay.
Hustle Hard is the song.
Hustle Hard.
Yes.
Okay. A favorite book?
Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?
I read that years ago. That was a very good book. It was and kind of sad.
It is.
It was kind of sad at the end because the main character, he had all the money
in the world,
but he couldn't save his life.
He could not.
And
health is wealth, people.
Health is wealth. And he had regrets that he didn't spend more time with his family.
That's correct.
He didn't have a balanced life because he worked, he was so driven, and then he got sick, and with all the money that he had, all the wealth that he had, he couldn't buy his health. It was a very good book. Who would you invite to dinner, living or dead?
Nelson Mandela.
Why?
So, in 2000, I got the opportunity to travel there with the Miami Fellows leadership group I was with, and we couldn't get that meeting scheduled. And, part of his story affects Miami,
right?
With how he was engaged with when he came to visit, which was something that struck me heavily. Matter of fact, the former mayor who I'm friends with now, we've talked about that subject. And I would love to sit down and talk to him about how he felt about it. Because when I did get a chance to go to his house in Soweto, and the 2 city proclamations, one for Winnie and one for him, was sitting there, and my inclination was to take it back. Because it wasn't given in at the time.
Right.
At the time. And I know, it's been reconciled since, and it's a great thing. But it speaks to leadership, and that sometimes we have to separate our personal from when we're leading. In that case, I consider Nelson Mandela to be one of the peace leaders of our our world, like Martin Luther King or
Right.
Mother Teresa,
His grace.
is amazing. So
Yes.
it would be Nelson Mandela,
Okay.
and I'll cook.
All right. If you could give your younger self advice, what would it be?
That's interesting. I would say I would have told myself to be a little bit more focused in undergrad. I could have managed my time better. I've done well, but I probably could have done more.
I understand. Okay. And what would you consider the most dangerous thing you do?
Most people would consider that I'm an avid cyclist, so I ride at 22 to 25 miles an hour, 40 to 50 mile loops here on the streets of Miami. So
That would be considered dangerous. I would consider that dangerous. Yeah.
But it is absolutely a big passion of mine. I ride about 60 miles a week, so I love it.
Oh, well, this wraps up the latest episode of the Kingdom Podcast. I want to thank you for coming on, educating our listeners and our viewers, because you're also able to watch this podcast on our YouTube channel, the City of Miami's YouTube channel. So thank you for being a guest. Thank you for everyone that's listening or watching the Kingdom Podcast. This is a wrap.